In this video, we're going to use some JavaScript to make an SVG that is a drop shape created from arcs, and it's going to be on an HTML page. Okay, so here is sort of a drawing of the circles that we will be taking arcs from. And I decided on a 45-degree that these circles would sort of kiss, touch, and that the sort of transition point would be at this sort of 45-degree angle. And so then that determined the relative size of this small circle compared to the large circles. And that's the 45 brings in sort of square roots of 2 or 1 on the square root of 2, and then that's where this is 1 minus, or the square root of 2 minus 1. That's where this 0.414 comes from. Okay, so and then we're making this sort of this blue drop or tier shape. Okay, so I have some defined constant of 300 pixels. Then I'm making that using calc, making that and var, making twice that, the size of my SVG, and so on. Okay. Here is the SVG, which is empty until we fill it with JavaScript. And then here is the JavaScript. I'm getting that size, that half size variable from the style. So the style knows about it, and now also JavaScript knows about it. And the square root of 2 shows up all over the place, so I made it, I used the math library, and then I made it a variable. So it was going to pop up all over the place. Okay, I have a radius that is the radius of these larger circles. And then I have a place where I'm going to start. I'm not starting. You can see that these shapes are sort of not sort of, I don't know, evenly distributed in their position sort of vertically. So there's some, I'm not starting at dead center, what I'm calling what's the center of my image and what's the center of some of my starting places are not exactly. So this is 1.25 m. So the vertically you measure from the top. So this is pushed down a little further than just sort of strictly speaking the center of my SVG. I'm going to have, again, as I say, 3 arcs, and 45 degrees is going to play a role. When I'm making arcs, the big thing is this D property. And so it has a starting place, and there are different ways to make various paths. And we're going to be using arcs, but almost all paths start with like, what's the starting point? And so I have my position on my drop where I'm starting, and then I'm creating an arc. And this is one of the larger arcs, so it is R. Then there are sort of 3 parameters when drawing an arc. One is the sort of angle of rotation, but since I'm choosing circular arcs, that's irrelevant, so I just made it 0. And then these other parameters are sort of, do you want to be more inside the circle or outside of the circle of the arc? And so sort of 2 points and radii are sort of not enough to define how you're drawing the arc. So you need these additional parameters. And then, so it was, A was for arc. The R is the radii of the arc. In general, the arc, it can be elliptical. So there are 2 radii, but for me, they're the same because it's a circular arc. And then there is this sort of the next point. So here's where I'm starting, M, and then where I am going to. So this is the next point on the arc. And so horizontally, I am in the middle. I started off to the side. So I was probably here and have just sort of drawn that. Okay. So then the next, I'm going to continue with that. So I'm continuing with another arc, and I'm just sort of on the other side. So again, it's the second large arc. So I'm coming down that other side. Um, and now I'm getting to the point. Here's where I started, m plus r times 1 minus 1 on the square root of 2. And now I'm going on the other side, m minus r, same thing. And the y start, I'm back to the same level. So I was up to here, then down to here. Now I need the sort of larger portion. So that was sort of swept 45 degrees of those bigger circles. Um, and now I'm going to have the smaller circle, but I have a much more of the circle swept out. And so that is my final arc. That is the smaller circle. So it's square root of 2 minus 1. That was that point 414 in this picture. So this is the smaller arc. This one here says that I am not doing some, if I say here are my 2 points, I don't want just a little arc like here, but I want this big sweeping arc. And that is what some of these choices do for me. And then where do I end? This is my last and final arc, so I end where I started. And then I create an element. Now that I have all of the hard work done of creating the D attribute of the path, then I make a path. I assign my D to the D property of the path. I'm filling it in with blue. I gave it a stroke of dark blue, stroke width of 3. These are all just sort of random choices. And then I add the path to the SVG for the drop. And let's actually run it. And there is the drop shape. So this is that part of the large circle, the other large circle, and then the small circle. And they are all sort of met at that 45-degree angle, which is just sort of, I didn't do any like physics of a drop or anything like that. I just sort of said I want them to kiss at 45 and just made that choice from the start. All right, that was it for this one. Thanks for your attention.